Good evening to you. Welcome to News 360 and it's live Money News Hub here at Desawa in Kanda. My name is Alfred Okansi.
And I am Solis Rose Quarte. Coming up this evening.
360 Headlines is brought to you by
President Akufo-Addo scores his government high marks in first year of office.
Meanwhile, senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Professor Jampo, has described the media's performance at the encounter abysmal.
Environmental disaster looms as Azizanya Ayibo in the Adan East District of the Greater Accra region following marine diesel spillage into the sea. And the Asokwa Juvenile Court strikes out case involving 5 suspects in the Bantama gang rape case. We'll be telling you why. And in business tonight, President Akufo-Addo says government saved 145 million cedis in 2017 on procurement through prudent economic measures. And on the international front, North and South Korea have agreed to march together under a single unified Korea flag at the next month's Winter Olympics. All of these details plus sports as well as entertainment coming up in the next 60 minutes. Let's start off. And President Akufo-Addo says the office of the Special Prosecutor will remove the fear of partisanship and put the fear of God in persons who may want to rob the country. Answering a range of questions at the encounter with the press at the Flagstaff House, the President, however, promised to strengthen the capacity of other investigative institutions.
The encounter with the media was the second by the President since he assumed office early last year. The President recounted efforts made in his first year in office to improve the economy and accelerate development. Touching on the appointment of the Special Prosecutor, President Akufo-Addo was optimistic the office will deliver without fear or favor.
I'm well aware of the general sense of anxiety in the country and the strong feeling that politicians tend to get away with corrupt practices. A significant choice, though that Mr. Amidu is, I do not expect that he will provide all the answers, will deal with the phenomenon of corruption by public officials. But I do believe that at the least, the office will remove the fear of partisan prosecution and begin to put the fear of God in all public officials who are intending to go down the path of corruption. The current office holders are as likely to be investigated and prosecuted by the Special Prosecutor if a case is made out against them as past office holders.
He, however, promised to resource other investigative institutions. Answering a question on alleged corruption by his appointees on the infamous seat for cash saga, the President said he was satisfied with the ongoing parliamentary inquiry and explanations given by the Trade Minister.
I asked the Minister of Trade to give me an explanation to respond to the allegation that had been made in the public space. I was there at the occasion, and nobody had made me aware that there was anything like people buying money to sit next to me or anything. So it came as a surprise to me. And I asked for an explanation from him. And he gave me a full account of the process that had been undertaken, the monies that had been paid, the use of the monies, and I mean, a full accounting. I looked at it, I examined it with others, and was satisfied that it had responded to the allegation that had been made. And I believe the statement he made to me is the very same statement that he made to the committee. And it has been supported by virtually everybody who was involved in the organization of the event. So I believe that I was on firm ground in saying to myself that yes, an allegation has been made, it has been looked into, queries that I put on the matter have been responded to, and I'm satisfied with the quality of the responses that I have got. The fact that there is a public inquiry in itself, to me, does not shake my own conviction that there was nothing untoward had taken place.
Well, let's still stay with this a bit, because some journalists who attended the president's second media encounter have described it as underwhelming. President Akufo-Addo's meeting with journalists sought to give stewardship for 12 months in office. Yes, Kamla Kloche, the rest of the details.
A president unfazed with attacks of corruption, despite attempts by his critics to taint him, he says.
To the claims of extortion against the trade minister and to those against the Minister for Special Development Initiatives, they have all been investigated, and no evidence has been adduced to suggest mildly perpetration of any act of corruption.
Was it a conspiracy theory?
Is there any way we can have cashew roast?
Questions were thrown at him. Some he answered.
I don't think that incumbency should be an advantage.
Others he appeared not in charge.
The white paper.
What?
The 2014 World Cup. That is the Commission of Inquiry white paper, the report. Mr. President, please, are you interested?
To be honest, I've forgotten about the 2014 white paper.
A walk away from the very first encounter, organizers wanted to give as much opportunity to journalists from across the country the chance to quiz the president.
Hello, Mr. President. I must say you're looking really cool and fresh.
Some were fortunate.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is...
That's King Edward. Yes, and that is the last question.
Thank you very much.
I insist.
Others attempted, but they were not given the opportunity.
My question is, this Fulani
President intends to interact with the media twice in every year. The media appeared unsatisfied with the timing, seeking for more from his appointees.
This thing about thrusting microphones in people's heads.
Unprepared to answer, his energy minister was not in the mood as he laments he was ambushed by the journalist. The media certainly is unsatisfied.
Today's encounter is one of the most underwhelming ones I have been. I mean, if you ask me what is the major takeaway, I'll struggle.
I wasn't too happy with his responses. I wasn't satisfied at all, especially about the white paper from the Jamepe Commission report concerning the 2014 World Cup. I thought that, I assumed he would have been very abreast with that, but he admitted that he didn't have all the information.
My problem really is about the kind of questions that were asked. I think that by and large, several people had major issues that they wanted to ask questions about, but the framing of questions ended up being rather too long or rather not being clear. There were a couple of times that the president himself actually had to ask for clarification.
I think that in planning this, if it is the Ministry of Information that is the key planner, they better invite interested parties, maybe the GG, the Reuters Forum, and so on and so forth. Then so we have a clear-cut method. If we know that the president will speak for, say, 10 minutes as an intro, we do know, and so on and so forth. But if it is, as you may want to call it, a State of the Nation address in disguise or a budget statement in disguise before the questions follow, I can understand that it disarms certain people.
But the Deputy Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, explains lessons have been drawn from the second encounter.
If we had a lot more time, we would have had a lot more questions. But within the time frame that we had, within the constraints, we had questions from journalists from all over the country dealing with issues that matter to various parts of the country. I think that this can only get better.
Kamla Kloche, TV3 News, Accra.
Now let's still stay on this particular happening in the afternoon. Senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Professor Jampo, has expressed disgust over the media's performance at the presidential encounter. Now, most of the questions, he said, were not good enough to pin the president. He thinks it would be more productive if the president interacts directly with the citizenry.
Professor Ransford Jampo was disappointed in the media for the abysmal performance, especially in the line of questioning.
Because apart from a few journalists or media personnel who asked very good questions, the rest were not asking any meaningful question. The questions were so shallow and they were not seasoned with any research, and there were questions that any president could easily answer. And over the years, that has been the trend. And so no president becomes scared of such a platform.
To him, there were more critical issues that needed answers from the president.
The 1992 Constitution is 25 years old. It has undergone a review. We spent huge sums of the taxpayers' money to undergo the review process, to subject that document to review. This administration came in and we don't know what is happening to the Constitution review process. Have we abandoned the process? Is the president doing something about the proposals for reform? What are we doing about it? You expect a journalist who thinks about Ghana to ask this question.
Professor Jampo feels the media failed in representing the people.
Somebody may be born from day one to the time the person will die, he will never have the privilege of meeting the president. And so if you have the privilege to meet the president, then you should be able to ask questions that borders on the lives of people. Again, some people went there with their questions already prepared. And I'm saying, yes, you should conduct research and prepare your question. But if somebody asks a question and the answer that is given is not so convincing, you are required as a smart journalist to shelve your own question, to ask a follow-up question in relation to what has been asked earlier by your colleague, so that you pin the president.
To him, it would serve a better purpose if the program is scrapped.
If you guys would go and indirectly sing his praises, I don't think you are doing a lot of good to Mother Ghana. It's about me, the press, and I'm saying that media people worth their salt must be able to research and ask thought-provoking and scrutinizing questions to subject the president to strict proof, because this is a very credible and serious accountability platform. You guys, you either sit up to seize the opportunity, or let us scrap this whole arrangement and revert to the one that the president would meet the people one-on-one. Because I'm sure if the president go to Makola, he would be able to receive thought-provoking questions regarding issues that border on the lives of the ordinary people.
Professor Ransford Jampo was not very really light with journalists there. Very hard on some journalists with the question that they asked there. But Kojo Ponkroma is the Deputy Information Minister. He's also a Member of Parliament for the Ofuasha Irebe constituency. And Suleiman Ibrahim is Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Gentlemen, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now, let me start off with where Professor Jampo ended. Sule, is this a clear reflection of what happened today, so that, in his view, journalists did not acquit themselves, well, at least those who had the opportunity to ask the questions?
Well, we have just released a 4-page statement on sharing our perspectives on what happened today. I don't think that it would be entirely right to suggest that there weren't any good questions that were asked. I think it would be fair to say that, well, some questions that were asked didn't meet expectations, and indeed the paper that we've put out there, we tried to share what our top 3 questions were and what our worst
What were your top 3
questions were. We thought that the question on security that was asked by High Momin of GBC was a very solid question, was given proper background, good contextualization, and the question was clear. It wasn't asked in a close-ended manner to allow the president to say yes or no to that. I think that the question that came from Bernard, even though one would say is a bit narrow, it's important that he made reference to what the president had said during the State of the Nation's address, as well as the last Meet the Press encounter, and actually quoted from those platforms. And the fact that he was referring to a policy or a program that the president had indicated would be rolled out by end of year.
Just for the sake of time, I'm going to ask you to do, just run through the last third one and then the bottom three, just for me, without giving me
I think in terms of the bottom three, there was a question about the 2012 presidential petition and the fact that the president accepted it. Does he think it constitutes a hallmark in the Fourth Republic? And that was a question that had no context. One wonders what the relevance of the question is at this time. There was also a question about why foreign dignitaries were trooping in the view of the journalist. It was unprecedented, and our view is, well, it was something that was remarkable, but we cannot say it's unprecedented. But then what is the context? What is the relevance? Was it a question to provide an opportunity for the president to tout his achievements, or the administration's performance, or what about that? And then there was also a third question that the president himself was not too clear about, a question that came from a gentleman from ACFM in Sunyani, whether or not incumbency is an advantage or disadvantage. It wasn't even quite clear, and one wonders what the purpose of the question was.
I see. So you put together this event. I mean, it is your ministry that superintends over it, for the lack of better expression. I want to hear some of these questions and the analysis, the post-analysis of this particular event. How does it get to you? Some of the questions that come and the reactions that the public gives after the whole event.
I think for us, this event is part of the exercise of accountability to the people of Ghana, to create a platform for the president to articulate what he has done over a 6-month period, and to subject himself to some questioning and critique from the people of Ghana through the media. I look at it from this perspective. To the extent that the people are pleased with the questions that were asked, then it means that the exercise elicited the kind of questions that were agitating the minds of Ghanaians. If the majority of Ghanaians do not share the view that the questions that were asked represented what they were thinking, then that will be the verdict at the end of the day. For us, our interest is in creating the platform and taking the feedback that comes to us, and then also to the journalism community.
But sometimes when you have certain questions that per the analysis doesn't really cut and hit the mark in terms of representing the issues that bothers on the people as it is, do you really think that your objectives are being achieved? Because obviously you put this together because you want journalists to ask the president questions about issues of national concern. Then you have people coming in to ask the president whether the president is cool and feeling good.
I don't think that in terms of substance, I mean, people, and at the beginning we cautioned that let's avoid long preambles and long background, and try and hit it as quickly as possible so that other people will have an opportunity to ask their questions too. In that spirit, I don't see maybe a passing comment that somebody may have made, or even an attempt at a joke, to be so much out of order. But suffice to say that those who got the opportunity to ask questions, not everybody got an opportunity, but those who got the opportunity to ask questions, in my view, had a lot of questions that hit on various things: corruption, security, the economy, infrastructure, agriculture, etc. Representing various parts of the country. Now, another thing to note is that sometimes when you're sitting in Accra, you think that a particular question is a moot question. But when you travel across a country, I have just recently returned from a trip to other parts of the country. The question from the Brong-Ahafo region, for example, is a big deal in the Brong-Ahafo region. The Cashew Development Board and the issues to do with what they call cashew roads is a big issue. So you may be sitting in Accra and thinking that some of these questions are
not. That was one of the good questions.
Yeah, so you may be sitting and crying thinking that a particular question is not good enough, but for the various constituencies, and our society is dynamic, for the various constituencies that are being represented,
there are many people who have reason to question the format of this particular, Meet the Press, so that if it's a day for the journalists, why should the president take about 30 minutes to talk before the opportunity is given to journalists to ask the questions, and then we are rushed through the process because there is no time, and some of us don't even get to ask the questions. So the question is, why do you bring so many journalists there and then you tell us, for lack of time, you're unable to pick questions when it is our day. Sule.
Well, I think that is one of the observations that we have made in our position paper, that on the average you may say that the whole event lasted for about 2 hours, and then the president had, spent about 40 minutes or so doing the introductory remarks, which as many may call a monologue. Again, we thought that it was a day for journalists, and the most important thing was to allow as many journalists as possible to ask questions that are on their minds. I believe that the president, given his position and his stature, has all the opportunities and all the platforms available to, at any point in time, articulate his concerns or issues. And so it's one of the recommendations that we have made, that in future encounters, it will be important to ensure that more time is allocated for journalists to ask their questions. In the office, for example, when we were discussing, colleagues had a concern when the Honorable Minister for Information kept repeating that, well, the President wants to attend to other assignments, the President wants to attend to other activities and so on. Well, I said, well, of course, we cannot have the whole day doing this by the President, but colleagues thought that repeating that sort of almost send a message that, well, there are other important things than what was happening. And I thought that it would have been important to have more time for the journalists to ask
and Kojo, especially when Mustafa Amin stated before the encounter that, look, it was going to be one media house, one question, emphasizing fairness, hoping that that was going to cut across. Then we have it while the program is on, we have that particular principle of fairness violated with 2 or more persons from the same media group asking the questions. And then, for example, for some of us from Media General, none of us, about 4 of us who were there, had the opportunity to ask the question. I saw you trying to get Mustafa to want to actually get to know that, look, Komla Kluche even stood up. We were asked to sit down. I'm not making the case for us personally, but it was a clear case of concern that, look, I mean, you can't rush through this process when there is really not much time and you do other things.
Alfred, thank you. So we had over an hour to take questions and to respond to questions. And all of this that we are getting for me is feedback. You notice that today we tried to improve on the very first one that we did. There was criticism from the first one that it was restricted to Accra predominantly. Today we had to bring in more people. So all of this is feedback for us to work with to improve. But we had about an hour to take questions. We also as journalists need to ask ourselves, is this how we want to pack our questions so that we can very quickly ask one snappy question on the go?
I mean, but you invited also so many journalists.
Well, and I'm coming to that one. Well, within 1 hour, you can get a lot of questions flying through. If you have questions, and like you said, there were times when the president had to ask, can you explain that question a bit well? Can you phrase it in a manner that I can answer? So it gives us as well some feedback. The other thing also is that within this 1 hour period, if you have a scenario where, people are running in perhaps a long preamble, etc., it limits how many people can ask those questions. But let us be honest, not every one of the about 200 journalists who was in the room will have an opportunity to fire a question. The best press conferences in all over the world, from Russia to America to wherever, not everybody has an opportunity to ask a question. But what we will seek to do as we move along is to find ways by which we can have, for example, those who didn't have an opportunity today have an opportunity the other time. I do recall that in the last press conference, Media General had an opportunity to ask a question, not so? In the last press conference.
Well, but I mean, that obviously doesn't justify
no,
the fact
No, and there were other press conferences,
other media
houses that didn't get an opportunity. Some of them got today, you didn't get. I've committed to you that in the next one,
I mean, if we want to use that same measure, then other media houses that had the opportunity the previous instance shouldn't have had opportunity.
That's a fair point to make. But what I'm saying is that, so as we go along, we will do well to try and give everybody an opportunity. This is not the first, this is not going to be the last as well.
Okay, but you see, there was this concern that the minority NDC is raising that, look, you made the point, the president made the point that they've cut down because of certain reviews that you made as a result of procurements. Now, they say that if there was bloated contracts and sometimes certificates forged about contracts that were not given, why didn't you not prosecute these people, but rather coming of the president?
About two or three different things. First, the president talked about the ratio of sole sourcing that went through in the previous administration and how a lot of it is not happening in this administration, and therefore the fact that we are saving because we're allowing competitive tendering in a lot more processes than were happening. Secondly, then there's a second subject of claims that were submitted. Initially about 7 billion. When you asked the people to bring in invoices, it shot up to about 11 billion. The Auditor General was able to validate only about 5 billion. The other about 5 point something billion. You found a lot of people literally not coming back, or some coming back to concede that they've received some part payment and therefore they want to revise their invoices down. And he made the argument that it suggests to you that there was a lot of either bloating or claims that were not being properly placed. Now, the fact that the president outlines this data today and doesn't proceed to, for example, mention the names of the specific contractors, or doesn't proceed to say that today charges have been filed against these persons, does not mean that that can or will not happen. What he was doing today was reporting on what he has done to protect the public purse. Right. I do know that there's subsequent work that is going on. Let's watch and see. It'll be interesting.
We'll be watching to see how the script unfolds. But thank you.
Thank you.
Kojo Ponkomah is Deputy Information Minister, Member of Parliament for the Ofuasia Yoruba constituency, actually a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament. Also, Suleiman Abrahima is the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. They've done a 4-page document on what just happened this afternoon. I'd love to see that document, Sule. Thank you, gentlemen. Grateful for your time this evening. Now, I'll go on to some of the stories this evening where residents of Azizanya Ayigbo in the Ada East District of the Greater Accra region are at the risk of water and air pollution following a marine diesel spillage into the sea. Now, dead fishes have washed ashore 2 days after the spillage.
The news team was welcomed with a pungent smell of diesel upon our arrival at Azizanya Ayigbo. The smell became stronger as we approached the sea. At the seashore, traces of marine diesel confirmed our earlier report of an oil spillage. According to residents, the impact of the spillage had reduced.
The thing came, that was yesterday midnight to the daytime. And then all of the sudden what we see is it was very black all over the coast, which these people said they can't make fishing.
The dead fish washed ashore perhaps is an indication of the effect of the pollution on aquatic life. But this would not deter children from swimming in the sea. The diesel stains on this boy shows the level of pollution. A similar incident happened 15 years ago in the same area, but for residents here, the situation did not have any significant impact on them.
And when it happens like this, the fishes sink. They go down to the bottom of the sea. They do not come up to make things for us to fish.
Regardless of the possible health impact, fisherfolk had made some catch and the fishmongers were ready to sell them at the market. Some experts from the Environmental Protection Agency were at the scene to ascertain the situation. According to them, investigations into the incident have begun.
The amount of marine diesel that has been discharged offshore could be quite an amount, a great amount, yes. But we believe that with the wave action and the movement of the high tides, it will be washed back into the sea. There's an ongoing meeting between the Ghana Navy, the Ghana Maritime Authority in Tema. So we have picked our initial investigations and we need to hear from the officers on what actually has happened at the other end, then before we can draw up our conclusions.
It is still not clear the source of the tank and the oil spillage, but a report like this raises questions about environmental issues as well as its impact on aquatic life and activities here in the coastal areas.
When humans consume it, it also has an impact on human life. Yes, so we need to actually intensify monitoring and also collaborate closely with the district assembly and all the stakeholders to ensure that these issues or these occurrences do not happen. They can stay away from the place for a while so that the VOCs can evaporate, and then after a while they can resume their fishing activities.
Officials were unclear when investigations would be concluded, but based on their initial observation, the spillage was not related to the presence of this plastic object at the sea as being speculated. For TV3, Kwabna Edu Jemfi.
You're still watching News 360. We'll be right back with more after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to News 360. The Asante-Hene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II has honored media giant Media General for its extensive and excellent coverage of the final funeral rites of the late Queen Mother of the Asante Kingdom, Nane Fiako Bisewa Ampim II. Led by TV3 Network, Media General provided days of live coverage of the funeral rites to highlight the rich tradition and culture of the kingdom to the world. The company was presented with a citation at a ceremony at the Menchia Palace to recognize the exemplary services provided by organizations and personalities during the event. The citation expressed appreciation for TV3's loyal and dedicated services to Asante Mine. TV3 and its sister networks 3FM, Onya FM, Connect FM, Akoma FM and 3news.com provided viewers, listeners and readers with in-depth coverage of the 15-day event to bid farewell to the late Asante-Hene. Regional Bureau Editor of Media General Kofi Edu Domfe, who received the citation on behalf of the company, expressed gratitude to the Otumfuo.
Let's still stay in the Ashanti region just a little further because the Asokwa Juvenile Court has struck out the case involving 5 suspects in the Bantama gang rape case. The state attorney says one of the suspects is not a juvenile, hence the review. The suspects were discharged on earlier charges of conspiracy to defile and defilement, but were rearrested for trial in a circuit court. Here's a report by Ibrahim Abubakar.
The Asokwa Juvenile Court, presided over by His Worship Peter Opong Boahen, discharged the suspects after the state attorney told the court investigations have revealed one of the suspects is not a minor. This compelled the court to strike out the case because it had no more jurisdiction over the matter. The suspects were quickly rearrested and handed a new charge to be tried in an open court. Counsel for the accused persons, Emmanuel Opoku, insists all his clients are juveniles, since he has not received any document to the contrary. He was not happy with the decision to rearrest his client.
As it is now, no determination has been made as to the age of the children. To us, they are all juveniles and must be tried by the juvenile court. The law they were quoting has in fact been repealed. Now the AG now submit that then they are withdrawing the entire charges against the juveniles. So as it is now, on the basis of withdrawal of the charges, no charge exists against the juveniles.
The state attorney explained the suspects will have to face prosecution in a circuit court because a minor who commits an offense with an adult is tried in an open court. Relatives of the suspects who thronged the court premises to witness the proceedings were disappointed at the turnout of events.
From the Ashanti region, now let's do some business.
It's still News 360. Thanks for staying with us. Let's do some business now with me, Nanikia Mensah Brampan, talking about the cash for seat probe. Well, financial analyst Joe Jackson says the ongoing cash for seats probe by Parliament will increase investor confidence in the country. He said the parliamentary inquiry sent a strong signal to the business community that Ghana does not condone corruption.
The Speaker of Parliament, Professor Mike Eronokwe, has set up a 5-member committee to investigate claims that the Trade Ministry extorted $100,000 from expatriates to allow them to sit close to the President during the Ghana Expatriates Business Awards. Although the presidency has said the Trade Ministry did no wrong in commercializing the presidential table at the event, the minority have accused the ministry of preying on the expatriates and charging them huge sums of money at the event. But how will the whole saga affect the business of expatriates in the country? Financial analyst Joe Jackson said paying to have access to the president is an act of corruption and must be treated as such.
The truth of the matter is that as a business person everywhere, investor, business person, we all want access. We want access to politicians. Because the politicians, the decisions they make, the policies they implement, the taxes they levy, etc., have a huge effect on our business. But anybody who collects money for access is in the practice of corruption, and of the worst form. Because money for access just simply means that by virtue of your position or your appointment or your election, you are placing money into some private pockets, and that's wrong.
He said the ongoing probe by Parliament is positive for the foreign investor community in Ghana, as it is a signal that the country is making inroads in eliminating corruption.
This probe, this airing of the issues to do with this cash for access is good, and it's actually going to encourage investors. Why? Because it tells us that corruption in Ghana is not so entrenched that we start to think it is okay to have cash for access. It is not so entrenched, and that people are still, their morals are intact.
And the Royal Bank has marked 5 years of operations. Board Chair of the bank, Professor Bill Polampos, assured customers and stakeholders the bank will meet the new minimum capital of 400 million cedis by the end of December 2018.
The Royal Bank is a wholly Ghanaian-owned bank incorporated in July 2011 and started operations on the 10th of December 2012. From a single branch at Osu, the bank now operates 26 branches in 6 regions of the country. The Royal Bank for the last 5 years had eventful history. The bank had its board reconstituted last year and is currently working hard to deliver good value. Through its corporate social responsibility arm, the Alhaji Adamu Idrisu Foundation, it has provided potable water to over 150 deprived communities in Ghana.
The future of the bank is very promising. Coming from its humble beginnings in 1 branch, 26 in 5 years, we can only hope for better things and greater things ahead. To all our employees, let me put it simply this way: there will be difficult decisions to take in the months and years to come. But rest assured that from the boardroom to senior management, we are committed to each and every single person.
In a speech read on his behalf, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, congratulated the Royal Bank for providing excellent, innovative, and world-class banking services.
The Royal Bank's assets stood at 1.24 billion Ghana cedis as at the end of November 2017 and formed 1.5% of the banking industry's total assets, an indication that the bank is growing amidst intense competition.
The month-long celebration will commence with a lineup of activities, including a donation to inmates of the Pantan Hospital and free healthcare screening for traders at the Ashaman Market on the 27th of January.
At this stage, I think it is so early for me to tell you which of the routes that the bank is taking. We are exploring all avenues. We are looking at major possibilities. We are looking at the shareholders also raising additional capital. We are looking at other financiers coming in to take some equity position. So we are looking at everything at the moment. I hope that by June we will have settled on something.
The 5th anniversary celebrations will be climaxed with the Thanksgiving service for the entire staff of the Royal Bank at the forecourt of its head office.
And talking about happenings in the Flagstaff House today, President Akufo-Addo says government saved 145 million cedis in 2017 on procurement through prudent management of the economy. Speaking at a second encounter with the media, the president said the amount saved provides incentives to open up government procurement.
You would recall that throughout the election campaign, we said part of the reason for the difficulties with the economy was the sole sourcing of procurement by government. Let me give you a few figures to illustrate this point. In the year 2016, the Public Procurement Authority had 622 sole source requests. 579 of that number, 77 of that number, 98% were approved, and there were 25 rejections. There were 592 requests made for restricted tenders, and 587, 99.15%, were approved, and there were 5 rejections. A grand total of 0 savings was made through the procurement process. In 2017, our first year in government, 394 sole sourcing requests were made, out of which 223, that is 56.6%, were approved, and 171, 43.6%, were rejected. There were 300.
We'll be hearing more from the president on the sports side with Michael Otieje, but that's it for business tonight. My name is Nanikia Mensah Brampa. Good evening.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Sports here on News 360. My name is Michael Otieje. President Nana Akufo-Addo says he has no intention of interfering in the running of football in Ghana. The president told the Media Press series that if there are any problems in the game at any level, then it is strictly up to those within the football fraternity as mandated to deal with it. World Football Governing Body FIFA strictly prohibits government interference in the running of the sport, but there are those who argue that there is a level of corruption in the activities of the Ghana Football Association that requires outside probe. The president is unwilling to get involved.
As far as mismanagement within the Football Association is concerned, my understanding is that the Football Association, by FIFA rules, by all the rules, is supposed to be an independent organization, and that those who are involved in football administration in the country will deal with issues of mismanagement, if mismanagement there is. I don't believe it's in an area where the government should intervene to sort things out if things need to be sorted out. Those in the industry, those in the sector, those in football are the ones who are meant to deal with football issues. And my understanding is that that is a basic rule that FIFA is very, very, very insistent on, that there should be no executive interference in the administration of football anywhere. The output of the sports minister, so far so good as far as I'm concerned. If your view is different, well, for the time being, on his retention in office, is my view that matters.
Now, one of the other issues that happened today, of course, was a question President Nana Akufo-Addo was asked about whether he will proceed to look into the findings of the Jammeh report that looked into the outcome of the Brazil 2014. Remember the fact that a lot of money was flown there, the general disorganization and a few things. So we just wanted to give you a quick reminder of the key findings of that Jammeh report. Now, the key thing was that the report said that government of Ghana should continue to fund national teams under the terms and conditions stated in Doris' report. He also said that since the national team belongs to the state, all monies accruing from leveraging on their brands, both directly and indirectly, belongs to the state and should go there. And then he also said state should not commit funds to send supporters to tournament. These were some of the key findings. There were also aspects of the report that asked for certain monies to be refunded. All those things have not been sorted out yet. Now, earlier today in the GACA G8 competition, there were supposed to be 2 semi-final matches played. One of them was played today, Kumasi Asante Kotoko versus Hearts of Oak, and it is the Accra-based team who got the first laugh. Accra Hearts of Oak winners by 4-2 on penalties in Kumasi. They are comfortably through to the final of the competition. They will be waiting for the winner of Mediama and Dreams FC. That game is scheduled to be played tomorrow. Whoever wins will go on to meet Hearts of Oak for Asante Kotoko, a first major blow even in pre-season. Our next story may bring a smile to the faces of a lot of people. It has to do with a man who put a smile on the faces of a lot of people, because Brazil World Cup winner Ronaldinho has retired from football at the age of 37, 3 years after he last played a game. His brother and agent, Roberto Assisi, announced today that he would not play again officially.
Ronaldinho Appreciation Day on social media. The back two-third Brazilian lighted up stadiums with his amazing dribbling skills and outrageous tricks, often delivered with a broad smile. It earned him trophies and accolades at the highest level too. He won the World Cup with Brazil in 2002, the Champions League with Barcelona in 2006, and won the Ballon d'Or in 2005. His brother said there will be a number of events in Europe, Brazil and Asia to round up his career. Ronaldinho started his career with Grêmio in Brazil before moving to Paris Saint-Germain in 2001. After 5 years at Barcelona and 2 La Liga titles, he also had a spell at AC Milan, where he won the Serie A title in 2010-2011. Many football figures took to social media to pay glowing tribute to his talent. His former club AC Milan said he enchanted every football fan, while Chelsea, whom he scored one of his best goals against, tweeted their best wishes accompanied by a video of that goal.
So Ronaldinho, you saw that goal he scored against Chelsea, one of the best goals you ever see. There was, of course, also the moment where he received a standing ovation at the Bernabeu after downing Real Madrid. A quick reminder of why we love him so much in terms of trophy levels. 2 La Liga with Barcelona, he won the Serie A with AC Milan, was Champions League winner with Barcelona, won the Copa Libertadores with Brazil, won the World Cup with Brazil, was a Copa America winner, he won the Confederations Cup as well, and he was also the World Player of the Year in 2005. And one quick football note before we go. Theo Walcott has completed his move to Everton, signing a 3.5-year contract that will keep him at the club until the summer of 2021. The fee for the forward is in the region of £20 million, with the England international set to take the number 11 shirt at the club. Remember, there are a few FA Cup replays tonight. Chelsea involved in action. We'll give you details of how everything happened later on Sports Unlimited. In the meantime, the news will continue shortly.
Welcome back to News 360. It's now time for some entertainment news. And in the aftermath of Hollywood's campaign against sexual abuse, more actors are adding their voices to how Hollywood can present an equal play field for men and women.
Actress Diane Kruger says Hollywood's Me Too movement has scared powerful men. The Me Too campaign was launched shortly after heavyweight director Harvey Weinstein was slammed with sexual harassment and rape allegations. Kruger says the progress made since the scandal shook Hollywood might be fleeting if the culture does not change with it. The actress said, "I'm afraid that in 6 months or a year or even 10 years, we will still be hearing the same thing." The German-born star also touched on the issue of pay disparities in Hollywood. "I have never been paid the same as a man I am playing opposite. That is not right." Still on the culture of sexual misconduct in Hollywood, legendary actress Sharon Stone laughed out loud for a full 10 seconds when asked by CBS's Lee Cohen if she ever experienced inappropriate behavior during her time in Hollywood. Looking Cohen dead in the eye, Sharon Stone replied,
"I've been in this business for 40 years, Lee. Can you imagine the business I stepped into 40 years ago? Looking like I look, from nowhere, Pennsylvania. I didn't come here with any protection. I've seen it all."
Speaking on the conduct of Hollywood when she started, Stone said,
"We were raised to accommodate men, and women so often lose their own identity to the identity of the men that they're with. They even change the way they dress and what they do to fit to the men that they're with."
Stone is a supporter of the Time's Up movement, and like many of her peers, she wore black in solidarity at the 2018 Golden Globes.
We're starting to acknowledge our own gifts as women and not think that we have to behave as men in order to be empowered or powerful or valuable.
Let's now go for some international news. On international front tonight, North and South Korea have agreed to march together under a single unified Korea flag at next month's Winter Olympics in the South. North and South Korea have agreed to march together, and that particular decision, which was taken to present a particular picture, has been a unified front from both sides, and that is coming up in the next Olympics in the South. They also agreed to field a joint women's ice hockey team in rare talks at the Tues village of Panmunjom. These are the first high-level talks between the two Koreans in more than 2 years. The games will take place between 9th and 25th of February 2018 in Pyongyang in South Korea. If the plans are realized, a 100-strong North Korean delegation, including 230 cheerleaders, 140 orchestral musicians, and 30 taekwondo athletes, could also cross into the South via the land border to attend. So that's the details there. It's going to be interesting the next one in February to see how North and South Korea put together, especially what's happening with the United States in mind.
And also, you know, the Ghanaian representing us in the Olympics.
Absolutely. Let's see, he's on the ice skiing as well.
Yes,
Thank you for staying with us here for the next 60 minutes here on News 360. On behalf of the rest of the team, we're grateful. My name is Alfred Okansi.
And I'm Solace Rose Corte. Good evening.